Otto Warmbier was born on December 12, 1994 in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was the eldest of three children, born to Cynthia Garber and Fred Warmbier. Raised in a close-knit family, Otto grew up in Cincinnati and was known for his intelligence, sociability, and determination. He attended Wyoming High School, where he excelled academically and was highly regarded by both his peers and teachers. Warmbier graduated in 2013 as the salutatorian of his class, a testament to his hard work and dedication. Following his high school achievements, Warmbier enrolled in the University of Virginia, where he pursued a double major in comics and economics. In addition to his rigorous academic pursuits, he also took a keen interest in global sustainability, which he studied as a minor. Warmbier's academic journey extended beyond the United States. He participated in a foreign exchange program at the London School of Economics, reflecting his deep curiosity about the world. Warmbier's Jewish heritage through his mother played a significant role in his life. He was actively involved in Hillel, a Jewish student organization, during his time at the University of Virginia. Additionally, he was a member of a Theta Chi fraternity, where he built strong bonds with his fellow students. Otto's passion for exploring different cultures was evident in his travels, which included a birthright trip to Israel, as well as visits to Europe, Cuba, and Ecuador. These experiences highlight his adventurous spirit and his desire to understand the diverse world around him. In early 2016, Otto Warmbier was preparing to embark on a study abroad program in Hong Kong as a part of his academic journey. Before beginning this new chapter, he decided to take advantage of the opportunity to visit North Korea, a destination that intrigued him. Warmbier chose to explore the country during the New Year period, seeing it as a chance to experience a culture vastly different from his own. He booked a tour with the Young Pioneer Tours, a budget travel company based in China that was founded by two Westerners. The company's slogan, "Destinations Your Mother Would Rather You Stayed Away From," hinted at the adventurous and unconventional nature of their tours. According to Warmbier's father, Fred, the tour operator assured travelers that the trip was safe for US citizens. Fred also mentioned that Otto's decision to visit North Korea stemmed from his curiosity about the country's unique culture and his desire to meet its people. On December 29, 2015, Warmbier departed from Beijing to flew to North Korea, joining a tour group that included 10 other US citizens. The group embarked on a 5-day New Year's tour, designed to give them a rare glimpse into the isolation. On New Year's Eve, the tour group celebrated at Pyongyang Kim Il-sung Square, where they enjoyed festivities before returning to Yakando International Hotel. Some members of the group continued to drink alcohol at the hotel as they welcomed the new year. However, the trip took a dark turn in the early hours of the New Year's Day. According to North Korean authorities, Warmbier attempted to steal the propaganda poster from a restricted staff-only area at the hotel around 2 a.m. The act would later lead to his arrest and beginning of a tragic chain of events that would ultimately claim his life. As the tour group's plane was preparing to depart from Pyongyang's international airport on January 2nd, 2016, Otto Warmbier was suddenly arrested while waiting at the terminal. Danny Grattan, a British member of the tour group, witnessed the arrest and later recounted the event. He described how two North Korean guards approached Warmbier, tapped him on the shoulder and quietly led him away. He said no words were spoken, adding that he nervously joked, "Well, that's the last time we'll ever see of you." Tragically, those words turned out to be prophetic, as the brief encounter would be the last time Grattan ever saw Otto Warmbier. Shortly after Warmbier was taken into custody, an official boarded the group's plane, which was still in the terminal, and announced Otto is very sick and has been taken to the hospital. This statement added to the confusion and concern among the remaining members of the tour group. Some media outlets report that Warmbier had been allowed to speak by phone to a Young Pioneers tour guide during his arrest. However, a spokesperson for Young Pioneer Tours later denied these claims, telling BBC News that none of their employees had any contact with Otto after he was escorted away by the North Korean authorities. Despite the alarming situation, the other members of the tour group were allowed to leave North Korea without further incident. Initially, North Korea's state-run Korean news agency, KCNA for short, released a brief statement claiming that Warmbier had been detained for committing a hostile act against the state. However, they offered no further details, leaving the nature of his alleged crime shrouded in mystery. For 6 weeks, North Korean officials refused to elaborate on what Warmbier had supposedly done. Although a spokesperson for the Young Pioneer Tours hinted at Reuters that there had been an incident at the Akando International Hotel where the group had been staying. Finally, on February 29, 2016, in a highly publicized press conference, Warmbier appeared before the media to read a prepared confession. In the statement, he admitted to attempting to steal a propaganda poster from a restricted staff-only area on the second floor at the Yakando Hotel. The poster reportedly bore the slogan, "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism," a message that under North Korean law was considered sacred and inviolable. In North Korea, damaging or stealing any item bearing the name or image of the Kim Jong-il is treated as a severe offense. There has been much speculation about the authenticity about Warmbier's confession. Because he never regained consciousness after his eventual return to the United States, it remains unclear whether his confession was coerced. Some observers who watched the press conference noted that Warmbier appeared to clearly be under duress, the suspicion further supported by the accounts of other former prisoners of North Korea who later recanted their confessions, stating that they were made under extreme pressure and threats from their captors. In his confession, Warmbier claimed that he plotted to steal the poster at the behest of the Methodist Church in his hometown of the Z Society, a secret society at the University of Virginia that he allegedly wished to join. According to his statement, both the church and Z Society were purportedly aligned with the Central Intelligence Agency. These claims, described by Time magazine as fanciful and implausible, were quickly disputed by both the church and the Z Society, who denied any involvement in such a plot. The New York Times also remarked on the unlikely nature of the details, suggesting that the confession had likely been scripted by North Korean interrogators. Mickey Bergman, a US negotiator involved in the efforts to secure Warmbier's release, later revealed that Warmbier's family had been advised to stay silent about his Jewish heritage during his detention. This was done out of concern that publicly denying Warmbier's supposed affiliation with the Methodist Church could further antagonize the North Korean regime, making his situation even more precarious. On March 16, 2016, just hours after US envoy Bill Richardson met with two North Korean diplomats from the United Nations office in New York to advocate for Otto Warmbier's release, Warmbier was swiftly tried and convicted by North Korea's Supreme Court. He was charged with subversion under Article 60 of the North Korean Criminal Code, a serious offense that North Korean authorities claimed was motivated by the US government's alleged hostile policies toward their country. The court accused Warmbier of attempting to undermine the unity of the North Korean people by committing a crime while posing as a tourist. The trial, which only lasted 1 hour, presented several pieces of evidence against Warmbier, including his confession, CCTV footage, fingerprint analysis, and witness testimony. The CCTV footage, which plays a central role in the prosecution's case, showed a man, identified by his North Korean guide as Warmbier, entering a staff-only area of the Yakando International Hotel. On March 18th, the state-run North Korean news agency released a brief, low-resolution video timestamped at 1:57 a.m., purportedly showing a figure removing a propaganda poster from a wall and placing it on the floor. This video was cited as further evidence of Warmbier's guilt. In his confession, Warmbier stated that he intended to take the poster as a souvenir, but abandoned the attempt after realizing it was too large and easy to carry away. A hotel staff member testified in court, explaining that when they would finish their shift, everything appeared normal. However, upon returning later, they noticed the poster was missing and immediately alerted security and reported the incident to the authorities, believing that someone had deliberately removed it. During his trial, Warmbier delivered a confession that many believed were coerced, in which he stated, and I quote, "I never should have allowed myself to be lured by the United States administration to commit a crime in this country. I wish that the United States administration never manipulates people like myself in the future to commit crimes against foreign countries. I entirely beg you, the people and the government of the DPRK, for your forgiveness. Please, I've made the worst mistake of my life," end quote. Following the confession, Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. The international community, particularly human rights organizations, reacted with outrage. Human Rights Watch condemned the trial as a kangaroo court, criticizing the proceedings as a farce and labeling the sentencing as outrageous and shocking. The US State Department, through spokesperson Mike Toner, echoed these sentiments, asserting that North Korea's actions were clearly politically motivated. Toner emphasized that despite North Korea's claims on the contrary, the regime frequently arrests American citizens to use as bargaining chips in its diplomatic strategies. Fred and Cindy Warmbier, Otto's parents, engaged in numerous discussions with officials from the Obama administration in an effort to secure their son's release. Among them, they met with then Secretary of State John Kerry and Swedish Ambassador Torkel Sternoff, who acted as a crucial intermediary between the United States and North Korea, given the absence of direct diplomatic relations. The Warmbiers were encouraged by the Obama administration to maintain a low profile regarding their son's situation, with the hope that their quiet diplomacy might lead to a resolution. However, Fred and Cindy were determined to ensure that their son's plight remained a priority in any ongoing or future negotiations between the US and North Korea. On June 13, 2017, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson made a public announcement that North Korea had released Otto Warmbier. Tillerson credited the State Department with securing his release, acting under the direct instructions of then President Donald Trump. He also noted that the efforts were ongoing to secure the release of 3 other American citizens still detained in North Korea. Later reports disclosed that during a June 6 meeting in New York, North Korean officials informed US State Department Special Representative Yusuf Yun that Warmbier had contracted foodborne botulism shortly after his sentencing in 2016. According to their account, Warmbier had fallen into a coma after taking a sleeping pill. Following this revelation, Yun led the US delegation to Pyongyang to oversee Warmbier's medical evacuation and ensure his safe return to the United States. After spending 17 harrowing months in a North Korean detention, Otto Warmbier was finally brought home, although tragically still from a comatose state. He was medically evacuated from Pyongyang Friendship Hospital and arrived in Cincinnati on the evening of June 13, 2017. Upon his arrival, he was immediately transferred to the University of Cincinnati's Medical Center, where doctors worked urgently to assess his condition. Their efforts focused on understanding the cause of his coma and determining whether there was any possibility of recovery. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, Otto Warmbier never regained consciousness, and his story remains poignant reminder of the perils faced by those who find themselves caught in the geopolitical tensions between these nations. The medical team at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, where Otto Warmbier was treated upon his release to the United States, described his condition as being in a state of unresponsive wakefulness, commonly referred to as a persistent vegetative state. Although Warmbier was able to breathe on his own and occasionally blink, he exhibited no signs of awareness or consciousness. He did not understand any language, nor did he display any intentional movements or responses to his environment. Dr. Michael Flicker, a medical doctor who was a part of the team who oversaw Warmbier's return to the US, noted that Warmbier had received appropriate medical care at the hospital in Pyongyang, where he had been treated before his release. Medical records provided by North Korean authorities indicated that Warmbier had been in unresponsive state since April 2016, just 1 month after his conviction. Along with these records, the North Koreans supplied 2 magnetic resonance imaging, or MRIs for short, brain scans in April and July 2016, which revealed significant brain damage. Warmbier's medical team in Cincinnati discovered that he has suffered extensive and irreversible loss of brain tissue, a condition consistent with severe cardiopulmonary event that deprived his brain of oxygen. His doctors, however, were unable to determine the exact cause of such an event. They speculated that it could have been triggered by respiratory arrest, but there was no conclusive evidence to confirm this. A neurointensive care specialist involved in his treatment also stated that there was no indication of botulism, contradicting the North Korean claim that botulism and a sleeping pill had led to Warmbier's coma. Furthermore, the doctors found no sign of physical abuse or torture. Scans of Warmbier's head and neck appeared normal, aside from the extensive brain damage. The medical team specifically noted that there were no healing fractures or any signs of recent physical trauma. They also remarked on the surprising conditions of Warmbier's body, stating for someone who had been bedridden for over a year, his skin and overall physical condition were remarkably well maintained. On June 15, 2017, Fred Warmbier, Otto's father held a press conference where he addressed the media but did not choose to speculate on whether Otto's neurological injury was a result of an assault. Instead, he deferred to the doctors for any conclusion on the matter, expressing a deep frustration and anger towards the North Korean regime. Fred Warmbier emphasized that his family did not trust anything the North Koreans had told them. He condemned the North Korean government for keeping his son's dire condition a secret for so long and denying him access to advanced medical care. Fred's anger was palpable as he declared, and I quote, "There is no excuse for any civilized nation to keep this condition secret and denied him top-notch medical care for so long," end quote. After his parents made the heart-wrenching decision to request the removing of his feeding tube, Otto Warmbier passed away at 2:20 p.m. on June 19, 2017 at the young age of 22 years old. Warmbier's death marked the end of a tragic ordeal that had begun with his arrest in North Korea. In the wake of his passing, the family released a statement expressing profound sadness and gratitude towards the hospital staff who had cared for him for his final days. President Donald Trump also issued a statement in response to Warmbier's death, acknowledging the deep pain of losing a child, especially one so young. He expressed the nation's collective sorrow, saying, "There's nothing more tragic for a parent to lose a child in the prime of life. Our thoughts and prayers are with Otto's family and friends, and all who loved him." Trump also used the moment to condemn the North Korean regime, stating, "The United States has once again condemned the brutality of the North Korean regime as we mourn its latest victim." In contrast, the North Korean officials responded to Warmbier's death by portraying themselves as victim of what they described as smear campaign. They insisted that their treatment of Warmbier has been humanitarian, claiming that despite his status as a criminal from an enemy state, they had provided him with medical care out of a sense of mercy. A spokesman stated, "Although we had no reason at all to show mercy to a criminal of such an enemy state, we provided him with medical treatments and care with all sincerity, on a humanitarian basis until he returns to the United States, considering his health got worse." At the request of Warmbier's family, no autopsy was performed. Instead, a post-mortem external examination was conducted. Medical experts speculated on the potential causes of death, suggesting possibilities such as blood clot, pneumonia, sepsis, or kidney failure. Some speculate that if Warmbier had indeed suffered from botulism and was paralyzed, sleeping pills could have caused him to stop breathing. Although doctors at the University of Cincinnati found no definitive evidence of botulism, several neurologists stated that botulism could not be entirely ruled out, given an extensive period between Warmbier's injury and his return to the United States. GQ journalist Doug Clark even suggested that Warmbier may have attempted suicide sometime after his sentencing. However, the US coroner who examined Warmbier's body found no clear signs of torture, further deepening his mystery surrounding his condition. On June 22, 2017, a funeral service was held for Warmbier at the YM High School, where 2,500 mourners gathered to pay their respects. The large turnout reflected the deep impact of his story had on the community and beyond. Warmbier was laid to rest at Oak Hill Cemetery at Glendale, Ohio. In a touching tribute, students and the community members tied ribbons on every tree and pole along the 3-mile route up from the high school to the cemetery, marking the path taken by the funeral procession in honoring the memory of a young man whose life was tragically cut short. The public response to Otto Warmbier's death was intense and widespread. US Senators John McCain and Marco Rubio, along with Representative Adam Schiff, characterized his death as murder, reflecting the strong emotions his passing stirred. Nikki Haley, the US Ambassador to the United Nations, voiced a sentiment that resonated with many Americans, stating, and I quote, "Countless innocent men and women have died at the hands of the North Korean criminals, but the singular case of Otto Warmbier touches the American heart like no other," end quote. This sentiment underscored the deep impact of Warmbier's death on the American public. Internationally, South Korean President Moon Jae-in also expressed his condolences to the Warmbier family. While stopping short of directly accusing North Korea of killing Warmbier, Moon emphasized, and I quote, "We cannot know for sure that North Korea killed Mr. Warmbier, but I believe it is quite clear that they have heavy responsibility in the process that led to Mr. Warmbier's death," end quote. His statement highlighted the global concern scrutiny directed at North Korea's actions. Michael Kirby, who chaired the United Nations Commission for Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea, offered a poignant reflection on the broader implications of Warmbier's death. He wrote, and I quote, "A young man's fate becomes a metaphor, a kind of symbol, of a big story about thousands of nameless statistics locked up and oppressed in North Korea. They are voiceless. But Otto Warmbier speaks of their suffering from its grave. He reminds the world of the human rights wrongs in North Korea," end quote. Kirby's words emphasized that Warmbier's death had become emblematic of the broader human rights abuses perpetrated by the North Korean regime, bringing renewed attention to the plight of those suffering under its oppressive rule. The media captured a wide range of reactions to Warmbier's death. Some commentators were critical of the Obama administration, accusing it of not doing enough to secure Warmbier's release during its imprisonment. However, the criticism was countered by Obama's spokesman Ned Price, who defended the administration efforts. Others pointed fingers at the Young Pioneer Tours, the travel agency that organized Warmbier's trip to North Korea. Critics argued that the company fostered a culture of heavy drinking and downplayed the significant risks associated with travel to North Korea. In response to the backlash, Young Pioneer Tours announced it would no longer accept American citizens on its tour, and it revised its websites to highlight the extremely strict lèse-majesté laws in North Korea, which imposed harsh penalties for actions perceived as disrespectful to the country's leadership. Warmbier's decision to visit North Korea in the first place also came under scrutiny. Robert R. King, the former US envoy for North Korea human rights issues, remarked that Warmbier had ignored the US State Department's travel advisory, which strongly warns American citizens against from traveling to North Korea. This led a broader debate about the wisdom of traveling to such a hostile nation. Some analysts speculated that Warmbier had been framed by North Korean regime as a part of a larger political strategy, while others believed that he had indeed taken the propaganda poster, a crime in the eyes of North Korean law. The latter view sparked criticism of Warmbier for allegedly breaking the law in a country known for its harsh penalties. Further, some commentators suggested that Warmbier's perceived naivety and privilege as a young American may have contributed to his tragic fate. These claims, however, were met with backlash from others who deemed them insensitive and inappropriate, arguing that they overlooked the severity of his treatment and human rights violations involved. The discourse surrounding Warmbier's death thus reflected a complex and multifaceted reaction encompassing grief, anger, and a debate over the circumstances leading to his demise. In July 2017, the US government announced a significant policy change, declaring that American tourists will be banned from visiting North Korea starting September 1st of the same year. This decision was made in response to several factors, with Otto Warmbier's attention and tragic fate cited as a primary reason. Later that year, on September 19th, during his address to the United States General Assembly, President Donald Trump directly mentioned Warmbier as he harshly criticized North Korea, labeling it as a rogue state. The following week, Trump took to Twitter to claim that Warmbier had been tortured beyond belief by the North Korean regime. This post was made shortly after a televised interview in which Warmbier's parents spoke emotionally about their son's death and called North Korea to be relisted as a state sponsor for terrorism. The day after the interview, the Ohio coroner who examined Warmbier's body responded to the claims of torture made by his parents. The coroner stated that there were no signs of torture on Warmbier's body and added, "They're grieving parents. I really can't make comments on their perceptions." The coroner clarified that Warmbier had died as a result of brain damage caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain. Additionally, the coroner noted that Warmbier's skin was in excellent condition and his muscle volume was reasonably good given the circumstances he endured. November 20th, 2017, the US Department of State officially relisted North Korea as a state sponsor for terrorism, with then President Trump referencing Warmbier's case when making the announcement. This designation was a significant diplomatic move, further isolating North Korea on the world stage. In June 18th, 2018, Warmbier's parents publicly expressed their gratitude for President Trump for his continued support and comments regarding their son. They also expressed hope that something might emerged from the North Korea-United States summit, which took place that month. Their optimism was short-lived, however, as in February 2019, following the second summit between the US and North Korea, Trump revealed that he discussed Warmbier's treatment with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Trump's statement that Kim denied any knowledge of Warmbier's mistreatment, and the president added, I will take him at his word, arguing that it would not have been Kim's interest to allow Warmbiers to be treated poorly. Trump's comments sparked controversy and prompted a strong response from Warmbier's parents. They released a statement saying, "We have been respectful during this summit process, now we must speak out. Kim and his evil regime are responsible for the death of our son Otto. Kim and his evil regime are responsible for the unimaginable cruelty and inhumanity. No excuse for lavish praise can change that." Trump later attempted to clarify his remarks, stating that his words have been misinterpreted and reaffirmed. He said, "Of course I hold North Korea responsible for Otto's mistreatment and death," end quote, although he did not specifically mention Kim in this clarification. In April 2019, the Washington Post revealed previously undisclosed information that at the time of Warmbier's medical evacuation, North Korea officials had presented the US delegation with a bill of $2 million, supposedly to cover the cost of Warmbier's medical treatment while in Pyongyang. The revelation led to widespread outrage, even though Donald Trump denied the US will be paying that bill. In December 2022, the US Congress passed the Otto Warmbier Countering North Korea's Censorship and Surveillance Act of 2021. This legislation was named in honor of Warmbier and aimed to address the counter the oppressive censorship and surveillance practices of the North Korean regime, further solidifying his legacy as a symbol of resistance against North Korea's human rights abuses.